convictions was recorded by the EFCC in 2 years of the administration of Olukoyede. Some of the notable arrests are the former governor of Kwara State, Abdul Ahmed, and the former governor of Taraba State, Darius Ishaku. Also, Theodore Oji, the former governor of Abia State, and then Yahya Bello, former governor of Kogi State. We also have a number of ministers that are currently under prosecution. You have Olukoyede, former minister of power, Maman Saleh, former minister of power, Hadi Sirika, former minister of aviation, and Charles Uku, former minister of industries. Then all of us are aware of the current prosecution of a former governor of the central bank, Godwin Emefiele. Also, another notable arrest and prosecution that the Commission carried out in the last 2 years was a landmark case involving 792 suspects arrested in a sting operation in Lagos in December last year. Of that number, 192 were foreigners. Those foreigners have been prosecuted, and most of them, if not all, have been deported from Nigeria, with EFCC working in close collaboration with the Immigration Service and Nigerian Prison Service. That is an indication that Nigeria is unwilling to be tagged a haven for fraudsters. So no foreigners will be permitted to come into this country and set up cells, criminal cells, and then engage our youngsters in fraudulent activities. That is a statement that the Commission has made in 2 years. Also, I also want to let the media know that in the 2 years that Mr. Olukoyede has been in the saddle, he took a very remarkable step by looking at cases that many of us thought had been abandoned. Those cases were reviewed, and then trial has commenced. Those of you who have been following us actively will recall that recently Fred Ajuba, one long-standing advanced fraud suspect. The case began way back as far as 2005 or thereabouts. Now we are back in court. He has been dodging prosecution with feigning all manner of sicknesses, but now the case is also back in court. There's also the case of Halilu Bello Muhammad, the former chairman of the PDP. That case, many people thought it was dead. It's a very interesting case. It started about 2005, 2015, thereabout, when EFCC started looking for her, and she was evading arrest with all manner of shenanigans. And then eventually when she came up and she was questioned, she was admitted to bail, and then nothing happened for a number of years. But now trial has commenced in that case, and people should watch out for the development as we go forward. In terms of asset recovery, it's my pleasure to also let you people know this morning that the Commission has not been sleeping. Sorry. This place is private. So in terms of asset recovery, monetary recovery that we have made in the last 2 years is also a record as far as the Commission is concerned. In terms of Naira recovery, the total figure that we have achieved in 2 years is 566 billion, 319,820,000 Naira. I want to take that again and very slowly. Total monetary recovery in terms of Naira is 566 billion, 319,820,343 Naira. The dollar component of that recovery is 411,566,192 US dollars. There's also a British pound and euro component. In terms of pounds, the total figure is 71,306 pounds. Then the euro component is 182,877 euro. That is as far as monetary recovery is concerned. In terms of non-monetary recovery, the Commission has also broken ground in terms of recovery of solid assets. The total forfeiture of estates that were recorded in 2 years is 1,502 properties. Total forfeited real estate in 2 years is 1,502 properties. This comprises of 402 properties in 2023, 972 properties in 2024, and 102 properties so far this year. I want to also highlight two major properties that we actually recovered during this period. All of us, I think most of us are aware of the 753 units of duplexes that the EFCC recovered in just one place in Abuja here from just one public officer. And secondly, there's also a university in Kaduna. They call it NOC University in Kaduna. That property was forfeited, and government has taken over that property. It has even been converted into a federal university, the Federal University of Applied Sciences in Kachia, Kaduna State. Usually when we give out figures like these, figures of recovery, the usual questions people ask, we are not saying what is happening to these figures that you are telling us, what is happening to those recovered funds. So far in these last 2 years, I don't think anybody will come up and be asking those questions because we are seeing tangible evidence of what is being used, what the resources are being used for by government. I just want to highlight two instances where we can see how funds that the Commission recovered is being used. Part of the funds recovered by the Commission in the last 2 years was invested in critical social investment program. One of them is the student loan scheme, and the second one is the consumer credit scheme. A total of 100 billion naira of recovered funds by the Commission was invested in these two schemes. Additionally, a number of government agencies also benefit from EFCC recovery. Some of the funds that we recovered also went to AMCOM, Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FRS, and then the National Health Insurance Authority. Besides that, on a regular basis, government agencies are advocated forfeited properties by government. I can't tell you the exact number of agencies that have benefited from this gesture, but regularly people make applications and government give some of those properties to agencies to use as offices. Some of you will recall that when the executive chairman appeared before the Senate during his confirmation, he made a promise that he was going to use the fight against corruption to stimulate the economy. One of the first major assignments he undertook when he took over was to set up a special task force on Naira dollarization and then the abuse of the currency. That task force had presence in all our zonal offices across the country. The task force went after currency racketeers and speculators with the arrest and prosecution of some culprits, while the offensive against Naira abuse improved public consciousness on proper handling of the Naira. It may have also reduced the cost of currency management by the Central Bank of Nigeria. In the same token, the campaign against currency racketeering and criminal speculation, including the clampdown on rogue cryptocurrency exchanges, helped to reduce the pressure on the Naira, a situation that bolstered the CBN effort to stabilize our currency. We also, I think those who have followed us are aware of the Binance case, the CBS case that we have handled. All those investigations have, in a way, helped to improve the value of the Naira that we are currently enjoying. Offensive against cybercrime. One area where the Commission under Olukoyede has made great strides is in the fight against cybercrime. Apart from stepping up the Commission's enforcement activities, the EFCC chairman also ramped up public education and sensitization activities intended to discourage the youth from engaging in cybercrime. One such public engagement initiative was the Cybercrime Dialogue that was held on January 31, 2024 in Abuja. That event brought together religious leaders, traditional rulers, vice chancellors, provosts, and rectors of our institutions, as well as youth leaders across. And then the issue that we discussed was alternative to cybercrime. That dialogue was followed up later with a national cybercrime summit. The summit was held in October last year, and one remarkable development that emanated from that summit was the unveiling of a 24/7 cybercrime response initiative, collaboration with foreign law enforcement agencies. What's the problem there? The Commission in the last 2 years deepened its collaboration with international law enforcement agencies. A number of memorandum of understandings, MOUs, were signed, underscoring the determination of the Commission to leverage global linkages in enhancing its efficiency in tackling organized crime across countries and jurisdictions. Notable foreign law enforcement agencies that the Commission cemented relationship with include the Korean Police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Spanish Police, and the German Police. Of course, all of us are aware that the Commission has a long-standing relationship with the FBI and NCA. NCA is the National Crime Agency, a UK-based organization. For the first time in the history of the Commission, the EFCC last year played host to the FBI director. The then director was Mr. Christopher Ray. It was the first time that the director of FBI visited any Nigerian agency, and the EFCC played host to him. Also, the NCA DG, Greenman Biga, was also here to felicitate with the chairman and acknowledge the collaboration that we have enjoyed over the years. That, for us, is an affirmation of global confidence in the leadership of the EFCC. Also, the Commission has also enhanced its collaboration with Interpol and the Japan International Corporation, JICA, with a number of capacity development programs hosted at the EFCC Academy in Cairo in the areas of money laundering and asset recovery. Highlight of this global cooperation was the return of recovered assets to victims of fraud in Spain, Canada, and the United States. Fundamentally, at the regional level, the EFCC chairman, as president of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, NACIWA, continues to direct regional efforts in fighting financial crime, especially illicit financial flows. He worked to institutionalize NACIWA, which now has a befitting office in Abuja. Incidentally, the NACIWA Annual General Assembly ended last week in Abuja. And then the good news, or the remarkable outcome of that event, was that the executive chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Olukoyede, was re-elected for an unprecedented second term based on his performance for that institution. I've spoken generally about our record for conviction, asset recovery, and then our collaboration with foreign partners. But I want to bring us back to the institution itself, EFCC, because you can't talk about what we are doing outside without talking about our relationship, our own situation in-house. Part of the promise that Mr. Olukoyede made when he came on board was that he was going to reform the agency for us to be able to achieve the mandate that the government has given to us to fight corruption in Nigeria, and he has done that in so many ways. As an institution, the EFCC in the last 2 years witnessed some transformation with the establishment of new Directorate of Fraud, Risk Assessment and Control. We call it FRAC. FRAC is intended to transform or revolutionize the corruption prevention mandate of the Commission. Also, the EFCC chairman took the initiative of renaming the Department of Internal Affairs as Department of Ethics and Integrity to reflect the due focus on professionalism and accountability. For those of you who don't know, the Department of Internal Affairs that we used to have is the department that looks at professional responsibility within the EFCC. When he took over, he changed the name of that department to Ethics and Integrity because he wants to place emphasis on ethics and integrity in the work that we do. You cannot fight corruption except you are very clean, so to speak. And integrity is what we hold dearly. It's part of the core value of the EFCC. The executive chairman also upgraded all our zonal commands to the status of directorates. That step he took opened up opportunity for career progression for a number of officers. He has also opened 3 additional zonal directorates, one in Ekiti, another one in Anambra, and a third one in Katsina. Also, a second zonal directorate was created out of the Lagos Zonal Directorate. We now have 2 directorates in Lagos, Directorate 1 and Directorate 2. Those initiatives have opened the Commission for a number of officers who were stagnated before now have opportunity to grow within the institution, and that has a way of improving the morale of staff. Additionally, the executive chairman took measures to speed up the development of the new EFCC Academy. We have a new academy site in Giri, in the Gogwalada Area Council of the FCT. Activities are ongoing in that place, and the remarkable aspect of the development is that we have a cybercrime research center that the chairman conceived on his own that will be cited in that academy. And the idea of the cybercrime research center is to provide opportunity for youth who are engaged in cybercrime to channel their talents and ingenuity to useful purposes instead of defrauding Nigerians. So when that center comes on stream, to provide a platform for people who are skilled in internet and other cyber-related professions to deploy those talents in a way that the country can benefit from them. Other specialized units that were created in the last 2 years include the Digital Transformation and Innovation Unit, International Asset Tracing and Recovery Unit, and the Visa Fraud Unit. The Digital Transformation Unit is looking at turning the EFCC to a workplace where we don't need to work with paper. That is already happening. At least our vision, I can tell you, is about 50% paperless now. All our memos, you don't need to carry paper from one office to the other. We have an intranet that you can use, and then that has speed up our vision and our response time to even members of the public. In terms of international asset tracing, it's also something that will improve our relationship with stakeholders around the world. Visa fraud is an issue of concern, and that's the reason why the chairman set up that section, which has already begun making wave. Later on in this meeting, the Director of Investigation, if he's here with us now, will be able to throw light on some of the activities of that visa fraud section in the last 1 year. Another area where I think Mr. Olukoyede has made great stride in the last 2 years is in terms of reforming our processes and procedure. I recall that one major thing he said when he came on board was that he was going to stop the weaponization of bail. People had the impression then that once you come to EFCC, you are given very stringent bail conditions that you may not even be able to meet. But being a lawyer himself, he knows that if you put a lot of stumbling block on the part of a suspect, you might inadvertently be denying them their rights. So that procedure has been improved upon, and people can get their bail sharp if you meet the terms of the bail. He also has come up with policies to regulate sting operations, gift policy, and exhibit room security. The gift policy is very important for us because we value integrity in the work that we do in EFCC. So that policy is designed to ensure that our operatives know what type of gift to accept and to refuse. They also should know what type of gift to declare or not declare. So with those policies, you cannot claim ignorance of your actions if you make yourself available to be induced in the performance of your duties. I also want to talk a little about personnel integrity. The chairman believes that you cannot use corruption to fight corruption. So from day one, he has continued to have on integrity and zero tolerance of unethical behaviors. He set the tone by declaring his asset and mandating personnel to do likewise. Staff who fell short of the values of integrity in the discharge of their duties were dismissed after the prescribed mandatory procedure. In 2004, the Commission announced the dismissal of 27 officers for various acts of misconduct. I want to inform you this morning that that number has since increased. At the last count in 2 years, the total number of personnel that we have that have been dismissed for various acts of misconduct is, I think, 55. So a total of 55 personnel have been dismissed for acts of misconduct. Misconduct needs to be qualified. It doesn't mean that if you are dismissed for act of misconduct that you took bribe. There are various misconduct within the service, and people who are accused of misconduct are put through a disciplinary process. And if you are found wanting in that process, you could be dismissed. And among those who have been dismissed in the recent time is an officer in Kaduna Zonal Directorate who allegedly tampered with exhibits. He has not only been dismissed, he is currently being prosecuted. And that, we believe, will send a signal to all officers of the agencies that you cannot be in EFCC and be found wanting in the discharge of your duties. Staff welfare. While errant staff were subjected to prescribed disciplinary procedures, conscientious ones are rewarded. This has come in the form of regular promotions for deserving staff and provision of CNG buses for the transportation need of our staff. Also, all our earned allowances are paid promptly. The issue of promotion for us is very important. There was a time when people stayed on the same rank for up to 5-6 years, but that has become a thing of the past. Staff of the agency now gets their promotion as and when due. So far, you pass the promotion examination. Prioritization of prevention. Under Olukoyede, the EFCC has prioritized corruption prevention as a cheaper alternative to enforcement activities. The paradigm shift led to the establishment of the department I mentioned much earlier, the Fraud Risk Assessment and Control Department. That department is deploying risk-based approaches in monitoring budget performances across ministries, departments, and agencies to prevent the diversion of funds and other leakages in government institutions. In 2024, for instance, the direct intervention of that department ensured the delivery of more than 80% of the presidential CNG buses that the government promised Nigeria. The Commission under Olukoyede also established for the first time an anti-corruption radio station in Nigeria, the EFCC Radio 97.3 FM, as a platform for continuous public enlightenment and sensitization. I think the final issues that I want to bring to you this morning is the rebranding of the Commission. The Executive Chairman, after careful review of the activities of the EFCC over time, believe the time is right now for us to take a look at setting a strategic vision for the Commission and reflecting that vision with a new corporate identity. That involves redesigning our logo, having a new motto that would communicate what the Commission stands for to all stakeholders and the Nigerian public. The rebranding process is ongoing, and shortly we will invite the media when we officially unveil the rebranded EFCC logo and other corporate identity that will hold here and that will reflect the values of the EFCC, the values of integrity, accountability, and professionalism, including courage. On that note, I want to thank you for your time and for honoring our invitation. And as usual, with this kind of briefing, there's opportunity for questions and comments. Luckily, I'm not alone here. I have with me a full complement of my colleagues, fellow directors from other departments.
My name is Bola Honlatono, and I'm the Director of Process of Crime, like my colleague, Mr. Wilson, explained earlier. I think Mr. Idowu of Daily Trust was the person who asked the question about the status of the 753 duplexes that were finally forfeited and is located at Lokogoma. Like he rightly noted, in line with the directive of the federal government, EFCC complied and handed over to the Federal Ministry of Housing. But again, in furtherance of that directive, a joint committee was set up comprising of representatives from the Commission and the Federal Ministry of Housing. If you've been to the estate, you will be aware of the fact that it is at a certain stage of completion. And although I'm not an architect, but if I'm to say, I would say roughly about 40 to 50% stage of completion. So you will appreciate the fact that more is still needed to be done. The committee has started work. We have been to site, evaluations have been done, and progress is going on in line with government directive. Within some couple of time, you will see the results of this progress, and the directive of Mr. President would be carried out that upon conclusion, those houses should be slated for public auction. So basically, work is going on towards the completion of the houses and eventual implementation of the presidential directive. Thank you. Secondly, somebody asked a question about an alleged deduction by the Commission. I think it's that gentleman holding the phone. If, although I may not recollect his name, but yeah, but I remember the question. The President of the Senate corrected that impression in relation to the question that you asked. If you look at the provisions of POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act, nowhere is EFCC embedded with the authority to make statutory deduction. He corrected that. He stated that in relation to a question raised by one of the distinguished senators on the floor of the Senate. What POCA prescribed is there that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a statutory deduction, and there are procedures stipulated. You don't appropriate money without the consent of the legislature. So EFCC has not been making any statutory deduction contrary to what the question seeks to postulate. The appropriate authority knows what to do, and they know where to ask approval from in doing that. So EFCC has not been doing that at all. Once our recoveries are made, there is what is called a confiscated and forfeiture account. This is where funds are remitted to. So EFCC does not have that authority and does not engage in such unlawful or illegal appropriation. Thank you. Now, I think there is a further question to say that what measures does EFCC have in place to prevent relooting and things like that? I'll give you a typical illustration of that. When my colleague, Mr. Wilson, was talking, he cited a peculiar example for you, and I will further refer to that example. The NOC University that was finally forfeited. This university, in line with the presidential directive, have been transformed into the Federal University of Applied Sciences, Kachia, Kaduna State. You may not realize the import of that to that community. I was there on the day the university was being transferred to them along with the executive chairman. And one of the statements I heard from the constituents made me emotional. He said for the first time that the community was having a federal institution in that part of the state that is happy that it happened in his lifetime. It is a statement that made a lot for me. Traditional rulers were there. Some were weeping openly that this happened during the tenure of the current administration and under the leadership of the executive chairman. I think that is one illustration. Secondly, Mr. Wilson talked about some agencies of the government that have been prominent beneficiaries of the covered funds. Let me talk about NDDC. EFCC has an enduring relationship with NDDC. In June 2025, you can go and confirm for yourself, a 1,000 capacity building in a local government called, what's the name now? Is it Otuoke or where? But it's in Bayelsa State. A 1,000 capacity meant to enhance the capacity of youths and serve other purposes. What EFCC did was that, working with NDDC, they ensured that those funds that were recovered were utilized for the construction of that building, which would be beneficial to the people of that state. You cannot take a walking visit to the place in Bayelsa State. It's standing there. It's a testimony. And the managing director of NDDC himself confirmed that neck to neck, EFCC was monitoring to ensure. And as a manifestation of that fact, it was the executive chairman that was called to come and commission the opening of that building. On that very day, the first ever building that NDDC, their own, that they were going to have in Bayelsa State, a 10-story building, was equally commissioned from recovered funds. So you can see how EFCC is trying to ensure that recovered funds are utilized for the benefits, ultimate benefits of Nigerians. And you people are all witnesses in 2024 how Mr. President ordered that 50 billion should be moved from recovered funds to NEL fund. We all know what NEL fund is doing in the average of every Nigerian student in the university. These things are being published. So if for any reasons you now have manifestations of how recovered funds are being used, then be mindful of the fact that when you talk about recovered funds, victims fall into different categories. It's not just government that are victims. You have victims that are individuals. You have corporate bodies. And on the pages of newspaper and all over the place, print media, social media, and what have you, you have several beneficiaries, particularly foreigners, who are thanking EFCC for the recovery of their wealth that was hitherto in the hands of internet and cyber fraud. Very early this year, substantial funds of money were released to representatives of countries of Western nations, February 2025. And like Mr. Wilson informed you, for a whole FBI director to have visited the humble EFCC is a manifestation of an excellent working relationship. So I believe I've touched on the questions that bothered on my area. Thank you so much.
Good morning, colleagues, and every other person here present. Quick, on behalf of the Executive Chairman, let me quickly also say that he has said to deeply extend his appreciation to the media for the huge and strong support that you have been giving to the EFCC. He says to say thank you and that he appreciates the work that you're doing. So let's give just a little quick of a background to what led to that. The outcry of the number of youths, young people, undergraduates, and then more recently, some of them getting even some secondary school students into cybercrime. And then also, by the time they were interviewed and spoken to and counseled at various levels, and statistics and data that were coming from the zonal directorate showed that a lot of them will tell you that we don't have jobs, we can't pay school fees. There are several reasons that they come up with. And then so the commission sat back and did a review of all of this feedback and said, so how do we come up with solutions as to giving alternative to cybercrime itself? Other than just arresting them and then convicting them, they are the young ones, they are the future. What can be done to better them? What can be given to them? You are asking them to stop cybercrime. What alternative can be provided for them to enable them, get out of cybercrime? Just like an attraction for them. Two things came to mind, which was the reason why the Cybercrime Summit was held. He mentioned, whilst my colleague was speaking, the Director of Public Affairs, he mentioned the new academy that the Commission, under the leadership of the Executive Chairman, is putting together. There's a center, a huge center that is being built there. And this center is expected to be a training center for cybercrime victims and people who are also involved in cybercrime. Now, amongst these young people, you find out that there are a lot of them who are talented. They have a lot of talent. They are very brilliant, very intelligent. It's just that this intelligence is diverted to the negative end. So we're trying to see how we can also fish them, get them, and then be able to also take them to that center where they'll be trained, and then where they'll be equipped, and then subsequently from there, identify what their talents are, and then see how we take it up from there. So that's one angle that will be provided for them as an alternative to cybercrime. So when that training school is ready, that aspect also, that training center would also be there. In fact, the Commission is doing this in line with one of the frontline fintech, Flutterwave. We had signed agreements and all of that, you know. So that's on that. Secondly, the cybercrime, alternative to cybercrime, after the center was done, we also decided to set up this cybercrime center. Now, this center is supposed to be a place where the caliber of people that will be there will be people who understand clearly what has to do with arresting cybercrime and dealing with it at the initial stage. So there will be people who are very experienced in that area, and we have loads of them in our system. The Director of Investigation will tell you that we have a strong CCS center, cybercrime section. We have the strong AFF section. So people from there who are grounded and experienced will be taken from there and then to work in this area. Now, what are they expected to do? That center is expected to assist Nigerians. So it will be a point where, if, for instance, your phone is hacked into, or your, what's it called now, your WhatsApp is hacked, like some of us, we notice that sometimes they hack into your phone and then you see them sending messages, send money this, send money that, or this has happened and all of that. That center will be a first point of call. You make your reports there. You quickly call. There will be a number you will call. If you noticed the day it was launched at the Cybercrime Summit, you saw clearly it was displayed how once you call that number, very quickly you'll be attended to. And then we will be working in consonant and in collaboration with the banks and other fintechs, so that if it is your money that has been moved from your account, maybe your account was hacked into, these experts who are there will quickly also contact the back end, since we are working with the banks, to make sure that there is a first point stop of the movement of that money. So that way Nigerians will be able to benefit from this center. Once it's finished, recently the executive chairman did a strong tour just to make sure that that center is properly equipped the way it needs to be equipped. So the right persons who are within the commissions are going to be working in this place, and it will be for the betterment of Nigerians at the end of the day. Thank you.
My colleagues, directors here present, everyone, good morning. We're happy to have you here for this interaction. Now, there are some questions that affect my department, that's Legal and Prosecution Department, and I wish to take them seriously. One was the Cybex case. Somebody asked the question, when will recovered funds be paid to victims? Now, the issue is, a criminal investigation is ongoing. And in the course of that, monies suspected to be process of crime were blocked from the accounts of that company. Ultimately, by the time prosecution is done and the guilt of the suspect is established, the monies will definitely go back to victims based on a procedure that is always adopted by the Commission. So it's not just a case of giving out the monies when prosecution has not been concluded. So victims have to be patient. Let's see how the case goes. Then repatriation or compensation of process of crime will be administered to the victims, as the case is. Then someone asked the question, it is alleged that politicians who jump ship, I'm just paraphrasing, who jump ship to ruling parties or to the ruling party are shielded. How true? The simple answer is that it's not true. I think reference was made to the case of the former governor of Delta State.
To the best of my knowledge, that case is still undergoing investigation, and in due course, justice will be served. I can't recall of anybody who, because of switching allegiance or switching party camps, is shielded by the commission. Certainly not under this chairman. If we are patient, it takes time to do thorough investigations. We have had situations whereby cases are rushed to court and the outcomes are not always good. So we would like to do a diligent job. When we go to court, Nigerians will see what the case is all about. But certainly there's no attempt, no intention anywhere to shield anybody on account of switching parties from one party to the other. Then someone else asked the question on number of convictions. It's begrudged that there are no high-profile convictions. Well, the simple answer is that for us here, crime is crime. Of course, you may think that these are low-level criminals, low-level prosecutions, but for the victim of the crime, whether it being the state or the nominal complainants who suffered the injustice of being defrauded or scammed, they feel it. To us, it might be that it is not a big-time offense and the subsequent prosecution and convictions are not high profile. And of course, you know that when you are up against PEPs, that's politically exposed persons, it is not a tea party. It takes time. For instance, a governor who spent 8 years controlling a state and its resources, whatever allegations of misappropriation of funds or whatever that emanates from his stewardship, is not something you rush into it, investigate within months or a year, and rush to court. Some of the cases might not be as complicated as the cases of politically exposed persons. But in every case, we take it serious. We just concluded the EFCC NJI annual workshop, the 7th edition, just yesterday. These issues came up. And we had some judicial officers, particularly heads of courts, who dismissed this kind of thinking that some cases are small. No case is small. If a scammer, internet scammer, scams me as a civil servant, maybe all my savings is no more than, maybe let's say 5 million. You think that is not money. For me, it means a lot to me. For somebody who is a billionaire, you take 5 million naira out of his account through scamming. It might not hurt him. But depending on your study in the society, there's no crime that is small. So let's understand that. Of course, we have recorded convictions that are high profile, except that some Nigerians are fixated. It must be a governor. It must be a minister. All those cases are ongoing. We don't just want to rush things and get bad outcomes. So in the fullness of time, the days ahead, you will see some high-profile cases and convictions as you wish to see. Thank you.
So as of now, no high-profile convictions?
I'm not saying there's no high-profile conviction. You have the records now. When is it today you started working as a reporter? What of the Darius? What of the ones we have done? The Boris, the Jolly Yames. We have done professors, we have done ministers, we have done so many of them. But you are shy of saying it. Thank you. Any other question that affects the legal department? Because honestly, I have another assignment.
Thank you very much.
Once again, good morning, gentlemen. We can only dismiss you as a staff when you err on account of gross misconduct. And this misconduct ranges from divulging of official information, corrupt acts ranging from corrupting bribe, even issues of theft, of exhibit and things you find around the office environment. Now, in demonstrating the executive chairman's zero tolerance to corruption and indiscipline, we had to show 55 of our officers way out of the commission. And again, there's no how we can come in publicly and tell you X, Y, Z in black and white have been dismissed. That's not possible. All right? Now, on the issue of asset declaration, this is a statutory provision of the Constitution, precisely Section 41, which allows public officials to declare their assets every 4 years, and for newly appointed public officers. So, and what you are meant to do there is for you to declare your assets, your liabilities, and your income. And periodically, it is the role of the CCP for them to investigate and see what you have put on paper in the Form 1 CCP, whether they're in tandem with what the assets you have declared, your liabilities, and your income. One more thing I would also want to address here is issues of whether we have challenges or not. No single institution or agencies that will say they do not have challenge. Specifically, what normally will come is issue of funding. You all agree with me that every agency will always say we have issues of paucity of fund. And of course, even when you budget for these funds, the releases don't come as at when due. There are procurement processes that needed these funds for you to carry them to the letter, but they don't come when they need to come. So in that situation, what happened? Certain projects you intend completing are not completed in recorded time. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the press and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's one question that a lot of Nigerians are waiting to hear what is the outcome of that investigation. As you are aware, the investigation is quite complex. When I say it's complex, it involves different jurisdictions. The modus operandi, as we all know, has to do with the virtual currency. Those monies are gotten from Nigerians. From there, they move to different layers of money laundering. The custodians of the monies that were traced are not within Nigeria. They are in other jurisdictions. However, we are working with other law enforcement agencies across the world. Some of the monies were frozen. If they are frozen, it's not that you just freeze and say, give us, and they'll give it to us. There are also processes that we need to follow before we get that money. Talking about amount, I would say that is in millions of dollars. Nigerians are not the only ones that are involved. If it involves other people from other countries, it means we have also suspects in other jurisdictions. So the investigation is not only done by the EFCC, but also done by other agencies across the world. Our partners are also assisting us to do that. But in Nigeria, the major players in Nigeria were arrested, prosecuted. Some of them are under prosecution. I think we charged 3 to court, 1 charged separately, 2 were charged together. So that is ongoing. And it is also a step that we need to take before we can make any claim from the monies that were frozen. We have to demonstrate that, look, a crime has been committed here, monies have moved from this country to another country, and by so doing, this is one of the steps that we need to take before monies come to us. This is as far as that is concerned. Secondly, I also want to make a rider on the challenges which Mr. Femi mentioned. One of the challenges that we're facing as investigators is the public apathy towards corruption. We've had a lot of instances where people celebrate corrupt people. When we go to court, sometimes you tend to see people wearing ashobi, clapping for the people that we've taken to court. When will the public, when will Nigerians rise up and say no to this kind of things? So that is quite challenging. Many instances we go for arrest, and some of the people in that community will try to prevent you from making an arrest. So just imagine somebody stealing resources of your own locality, of your own state. When you go to arrest him, you will be the number one to protect that person. It is very important for us to see this fight against economic and financial not as an EFCC fight, but it's a fight for all Nigerians. And if you don't get that public support, then it's going to be a huge, huge challenge. Many of you here must have heard of the stories where some of our staff were attacked when we did go out for operation. Who are the people that attacked them? Is it the suspect? No. They are the people that are around that area. So we all need to join hands to see that we fight this scourge. Otherwise, we are going nowhere. Thank you very much.
Well informed now about the wonderful work that we have done in 2 years.